Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our March 10th Town of Rhinebeck Town Board meeting. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching at home. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a couple of announcements. First of all, the assessor's office asked me to let you know that they will be closed on Monday, March 13th until noon, so they'll be open from noon until 3 for continuing education for the new STAR exemption class. We are continuing to look for members for our affordable, open space affordable housing committees, our Board of Assessment Review, our Ethics Board, REC. We need an alternate representative for PANDA. We need members for WEB, and we are still looking for and meeting with zoning enforcement officers with experience, please. Does anybody else have any other announcements? Yes, affordable housing. Anybody else?
Yeah, just one thing. We had tentatively tried to set up a meeting, workshop to talk about the leads.
Do you mind, can we come back to that at the end?
Yep.
In discussion, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, because we have 15 minutes before we have to open public hearings, and we have a lot of people here for one item, so I want to try and get some business done before we start presentations. Thanks, Joe. Does anybody else have any announcements? I'm going to ask Suzanne Kelly if she'll jump up front and give us her report on the cemetery committee. Actually, I know you're here for a piece of business, so
Yeah.
thank you.
So I'm here to follow up on the rules and regulations, the revised rules and regulations.
Yes.
The last time I was here, there was some question about new rule number 6, which you should all have in front of you. It's actually mostly an old rule, but we had added to it, plots must be sold at current rate, and there was some discussion about that. So our committee met again, and we decided to delete that and instead add the following, which you can read here. The Town of Rhinebeck Cemetery reserves the right of first refusal for the purchase of any resold plot or part thereof. If plot is not sold back to the cemetery, new purchaser must supply required information to the Town of Rhinebeck. So this was actually recommended by the town attorney.
Yep.
Not this exact language, but the right of first refusal. That's something that the association, before it was given over to the town, actually had, and for whatever reason, it didn't go into our rules and regulations. And so, in order to sort of protect us in terms of resale of plots, our main thing is to make sure we can track who owns the plots, and this is really the best way to do it.
Would we still issue the deeds in the clerk's office for the resale?
Yes.
Okay, so there would be a way of
Yes.
making sure that this
Yeah,
is
we really need a
complied
paper
with.
trail.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
So-
Anything else new on here?
No, that was the only thing that was changed from the last time we met, and you all seemed to approve of everything but that.
Yeah, that was the one
rule.
sticky point,
Yep.
I think. Does anybody have any other questions about this?
Well, I have a question, but not about this, but about the cemetery.
Okay, well, let's
Suzanne.
stick with this at hand first. I think are we going to adopt these rules and regulations tonight?
That would be great if we
Yeah.
could, yeah.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the rules and regulations of the Town of Rhinebeck Municipal Cemetery.
Second.
Any further discussion?
You okay now?
Yeah. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Joe, you have another
Yeah,
question?
we now have this green cemetery, and I'm wondering, for those who have purchased plots in the regular cemetery, is there a way to convert those over to the green cemetery? And has that been thought about? And if it hasn't, maybe you ought to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is be a longer discussion,
Yeah.
but it is something that we have thought about. Right now in the rules and regulations, and as you've just adopted them, it says under the conventional sections that all graves need to have a vault and/or liner, and so that is not considered to be natural burial. Of course, there's different dimensions to natural burial, depending upon who's calling it natural burial, but that is definitely something that would not be allowed in any natural burial section. So if you're asking if we could accommodate some kind of natural burial in the convention, the so-called conventional sections.
No, that's not my question. If somebody has purchased a space in the regular cemetery, but now wants to switch to the natural cemetery, could that be done? And
Sure.
and I think you have to think about it. Maybe we ought to.
Well, the way that that would be done, I mean, it could be done most simply by just changing the deed and then paying the extra fee, because the plots in the natural burial section are $300 more, because they're larger. So you would have to pay the extra fee, and then you would have your deed switched over to a new plot over there with the new deed information on it.
So you're saying that could be done without any further
Absolutely, very
action
easily.
by the board?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The other second thing, just very quickly, we have signs in the cemetery that list all of the rules and regulations on them. They're completely faded, and of course, they don't apply anymore anyway, because we have these revised rules and regulations. So they'll be coming down. We don't want to post the new rules and regulations on those signs again, because nobody really reads them. It's too many. We'd like to post those in front of the building under some plexiglass, and then have a few sort of important rules that are there when people drive in that we think people should know. And this is what we came up with. It's open dawn to dusk, the speed limit is 5 miles per hour, no glass receptacles, no planting of trees or shrubs, which is the rule that we just enforced through public notice, so we want people to know that. Leash dogs are welcome, as long as people clean up after them. And then to let people know that a complete list of rules is there at the cemetery office. So we'd just like permission to be able to post this and make the signs up.
Yes. Do we need to vote on that?
No?
Everyone fine with it? Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
folks.
much. We have a couple of minutes before our public hearings. So Ray Vergati is here from Homeland Towers. Ray, do you think you can do a 10-minute presentation for us? Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Supervisor, members of the town board, members of the community. The name is Ray Vergati. I own a company called Homeland Towers. We are a tower developer out of Danbury, Connecticut. When I say tower developer, we are the folks that build the infrastructure, actually put the steel in the air, not to be confused with the actual carriers that actually have a need for the tower, carriers such as Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, and so forth. Just as a quick recap or kind of a brief history on how I came to be here this evening, I had originally approached the town back in the fall of 2011 in regards to some cell coverage in the Pell's Road 308 corridor. Had struck a dialogue up with the town. At that point, the carriers were interested in the area. I don't like to mention names until there's full funding in place, but there is a need for coverage over there with the carriers. Had started a dialogue with the town, had met with Mr. Washburn and walked some properties that the town owns on Stone Church Road, the recycling facility, and another piece of property that is kind of adjacent to that. Part of my job as the site development manager for Homeland Towers, as a real estate person, if you'll call it, is to go out and to find interested landlords. And I have sent out a number of letters and inquiries for landlords in the area of Pell's Road and that general vicinity, and have received quite a bit of interest from private landlords, and have actually met about 4 to 5 of them and walked their properties like I did with Bruce going back 2 years ago. Homeland Towers likes to try to work with the municipality as a first resort. It's a great opportunity for the town to receive and recoup the revenue from a cell tower lease that we do offer, obviously. It's also nice in the sense that the town has some control. This would be vetted through your local zoning process, but being a landlord, the town is really, I want to say, in a driver's seat, but certainly has a lot of influence over how the site is designed and so forth. I want to remind everybody, this is very preliminary tonight. Nothing has been settled. This is more or less just to open up a dialogue with the town, and I'll have future correspondence with the administration here, but it's more or less just to put this on the table to say Homeland Towers is interested in working with the town, interested in exploring the avenues of working out a lease with the town. If it's something the town is interested in, we would put a lease before the town attorney, before the town board. We would do a site visit to design it on paper, and we would start that process of signing a lease and then taking a site, marketing it, bringing it into zoning with the carrier, and ultimately constructing a site. If anybody on the board has any initial questions, or the public, I'm more than happy to answer them tonight. We'll keep it brief, obviously.
Sure. I'd just like to say, I believe that there's a preliminary discussion going on with our planning board and another, I think, a carrier. So I guess anything, we'd have to take the whole picture into consideration, and it would have to go through planning and zoning. That's my comment.
Sure. I'll reach out to the planning board as well. There's always applications going on, and we'll find out where everybody is. 2 years ago, and the reason why we're kind of back is the carriers have been spending a lot of money over the past few years upgrading their networks. You see these commercials, LTE, long-term evolution, so next generation, 4G, 5G. So they've been spending a vast amount of time and efforts trying to upgrade their networks. They've completed that. So now what they're trying to do is build these new sites. And what that means is coming out into rural areas to put new sites in. They typically try to look for an existing structure, i.e. a water tank, a power transmission pole, an existing tower, a rooftop, things of that nature. When they can't find an existing structure, then they will come to a tower developer like us, and they'll say, can you please help us on our build structure or our build network? And then as a tower company, we'll obviously work with the landlord. In this case, we're hoping it's the town, obviously, to move forward on it. But I will reach out to the planning board and discuss where that pending application is for carrier.
I don't believe there's an application. There's been preliminary meetings, and we've hired a visual consultant to work with us.
That's fine.
And the planning board's sitting right behind you, or at least two of them. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. I mean, would you like an informal polling of the board? I mean, I'm certainly open to continuing dialogue.
When Ray was here before, we looked at behind the old pole barn, which is back off the road and kind of hidden in the woods. The big question was the aerodrome, and since then Ray's checked that, and we don't have a problem with the aerodrome. So
We've run some preliminary FAA reports on various heights over there. And part of this process, that the carriers, if this ever were to go forward, the carrier does dictate the height that they will need. Now, we're roughly half a mile away from the airport there. I think we're 1.3 miles away from Sky Park, which is the other airport. It's funny, the FAA does not, I guess, recognize aerodrome as a registered airport per se, even though there's activities there. Part of this process will be myself, our company, reaching out to the ownership of that airport and have a dialogue as well. We want to make sure that we're working with them in tandem with this.
How high would the tower likely be?
We don't know, to be honest with you. The carriers are the ones that drive the height. So once we actually pick a location and we submit a latitude, longitude reading, the carriers will dictate the height. And keep in mind that they have to prove the height. They just can't pick it out of thin air and say, we want 180 feet.
Right, they have to prove the coverage they need.
They have to prove the need, exactly. And it's a balancing act. We work with the towns, with your town code, to figure out the height, what is allowable in certain zones and districts and so forth. At the same time, you can look at it in a sense of, do you want to have a shorter pole, or do you want to have one pole that's co-locatable? When I mean co-locatable, it's one carrier or one pole going in with multiple levels to accommodate multiple users. Typically, the town's code prefers co-location as opposed to tower proliferation. That will kind of be washed out during the process of a height that a carrier does need.
Gotcha.
When we discussed this about a year ago, and we asked Bruce to work with carriers, I think we tentatively decided that if there is going to be a cell tower up there, we prefer it on town land rather than private land, so.
It's nice. I will say, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I always give the towns first crack at it. If there's town property that makes sense from a siting perspective, not just because it's town property, but in this particular case, you've got wonderful setbacks. You're in an area that's not highly residential. It's away from, the daycares and the churches and the schools and things of that nature. So it has a lot going for it. I will say that we just don't pick a town property for the sake of its town property and the revenue goes for it. We like to make sure that it's a great location aesthetically, because at the end of the day, we want to pick a site that's going to be had the least visual impact to the community, obviously. So I think we've got a good site here. Again, I've met with 4 to 5 private landlords along that area, have also expressed a very strong interest to have the tower on their property. Typically, it's a 40-year lease. It's a monthly rent that Homeland Towers pays. It's a nice annuity that comes in, obviously. The private landlords look at it as a way to offset their taxes. Town can certainly look at it to put it into a general fund or to do whatever they wish, obviously, on that revenue side. But we think it's a good spot. We think it's a good spot. And I wouldn't be here tonight if I didn't think it was.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thanks for having me very much. I
Yes, of course.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Any
Okay.
other questions or comments? Michael?
Just to clarify, we actually have 3 proposals before us, 3 sites that people want to use. We have both a visual impact consultant, we also have a RF engineer consultant. The 3 people, we met with them last week, and with our consultants, it turns out the work they had done was extremely poor. They have to demonstrate need, they have to demonstrate exactly what they think they're going to reach within a certain location. There are a whole bunch of things they have to do. We also have a number of locations already in the town and the village that have to be worked into this. So in order to deal with his proposal, which may be perfectly adequate and where it's going to work, we need to know what he's talking about, who he wants to have coverage for. He's going to have to go into the same mix with all these other guys because, yes, some people would love to have these on their property, but for every one person who would love to have it on their property, there are probably 50 would not like to see it. So what we want to do is make sure that we're getting the coverage we need so people, because they do depend on it, but at the same time, there are things we can do to try and minimize the view. And one thing that I thought was kind of curious you didn't mention, we found that the Kingston Airport is indeed something that the FAA is quite concerned about, and one of the sites in Rhinebeck would have to be candy striped and lit potentially because of the Kingston Airport. So that is another one, another player in all this.
Well, thank you for your diligence, Michael. Ray, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. It's a little past 7, so I'm going to open a continuation of our 2004 contract public hearings as to Rhinebeck Fire Protection District. That sounded awkward, but we're continuing our public hearing on the Rhinebeck Fire Protection District and our contract with the village. If anybody would like to comment, please do so. Can I open another one simultaneously, John, and leave them both open?
Well, why don't we go ahead and adjourn this if no one wants to talk?
Do any of the board members have any questions or comments? We're going to come back to this as a discussion item. Bruce has generated a gorgeous piece of data that we'll come back to and look at the end of the meeting. But this is for public comments for our contract. Anybody else? Would you like us to hold this open, do you think, Bruce? Are we going to need, after we present this data? Can we?
Let's hold a public hearing open, because eventually...
Close it for tonight and hold it open to,
Just adjourning it.
adjourn it until our March 24th meeting? And that will give us time to review the data tonight, to submit it to the village, and elicit some comments. Does that sound good? Okay, great. Let's go to our other public hearing. It's a local law amending the town zoning district maps established pursuant to Town Code Chapter 105. Does anybody have any comments? This is the, also known as the McGuire subdivision. Joe, you've got some comments.
Yes, but let's see if anybody from the public has any comments.
Guys, I'm going to take it off the microphone.
Glad I don't wear my hearing aids.
Okay?
We see if anybody from the
I
public...
don't think we have any comments.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please come up to the microphone.
I'm just reiterating what we said at the last...
Could you introduce yourself?
Bonnie Mahal, 7 King Road.
Thank you.
I just wrote this out. As a homeowner on King Road, I would like to once again voice my opposition to the proposed change in zoning in our neighborhood from the current 5 acres back to 1 acre zoning. While I personally am less concerned about Mr. McGuire's proposed development of 4 homes, I'm very concerned that the zoning change opens up the development potential of the 5 acres of woods running behind my house and 5 other homes on King Road. As I understand it, development of these 2 properties could possibly increase the number of new homes to 8, which I feel would negatively impact our quiet neighborhood. The Rhinebeck Comprehensive Plan states that the RC5 zoning was put in place to maintain and preserve open space and the rural character of the district. I am aware that our neighborhood has long been developed, but wasn't this plan put into place to stop further development in already developed areas as well as in undeveloped ones? Perhaps an alternative or modification could be discussed with Mr. McGuire, such as a smaller subdivision or a grandfather-type clause, so that the rest of the neighborhood on the King Road side would remain protected against further development, as is currently the case.
Thank you. Could
Thank
you
you.
please hand that to the clerk?
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public? Joe, I believe you.
Right. In that connection, I've looked at the map and looked at the comp plan. And with respect to the 5-acre parcel that runs off King Road and either fronts or backs, depending on how you're viewing it, on Route 9, I think that parcel should be taken out of the plan. Our comprehensive plan says that we should preserve gateways to the village and create and maintain green belts, distinct edges around the settled areas to preserve the identities of the village and the town. I think to allow more cluster development along Route 9 would be a mistake. So at least I would propose that we cut out from the proposal the 5-acre parcel which either fronts or backs on Route 9. I think this is feasible to do, having spoken to our attorney, who I think is here somewhere. Oh, okay, he's here, he can speak for himself. And to the planning board, I think we can do it by redrawing the map. I don't think we have to start, advise the whole procedure again. I think we have enough of a record to do this. So I would ask that we carve out that piece.
Does everybody, do you know what, are you aware of what he's talking about? Have you guys looked at the map? Does anybody have any further thoughts on this? I apologize for the alarm going on.
Does that impact Mr. McGuire at all?
No.
No, it results in only 3 lots being added to the whole development.
I guess I can go either way on this. I know that we're considering rezoning this for a neighborhood overlay, and our comp plan also wants us to have smaller homes within walking distance to the village, and this certainly fits it. It's the reason why we've considered Mr. McGuire's subdivision. I guess I see the other point of wanting to preserve the greenway, and that's something we've been very mindful of. So I'm kind of straddling both worlds on it myself.
Personally, I'd prefer to go with what Joe says because I like the gateway the way it is, and I lived through the comp plan, so.
Should we see if there's anybody from the public?
This is a public comment. Does anybody want to comment on this further or have any questions?
Does that help you?
Yes.
Okay.
She's happy. I'd like to make a motion then that we consider exempting the 5 acres on Route 9 south of Ackerd Hook Road on the southeast corner of Route 9 and Ackerd Hook from the neighborhood overlay.
Well,
Map
not consider
and
it,
amendment.
but
That
direct
we-
that a map be drawn.
Excuse me, that we exempt it from what we've considered, that a map be drawn excluding it.
I want to ask John Lyons the best way to proceed.
John? Lyons, could you help? I've made a motion saying that we consider deleting this parcel from the map that we're considering drawing and proposing for the zoning amendment. Is that correct procedure?
Yes, well, what we'll do is, under the town board's policy, room is provided for changes to the petition. So we can just make changes to the proposed amendment. We'll have to adjust, the secret documents, but because of the conversations that we had at the last town board meeting, we did not go, Art and I
Right.
did not go ahead and finalize anything until
Right.
you decided what direction you wanted to go in. So we can, and I think I talked to John, and we put the brakes on the new map too. So anyway, we can amend the documentation and present you with an amendment that conforms to, if you decide to vote on that.
If we'd like to
tonight.
do this, we can continue with this motion and hold the public hearing open. We can revise our paperwork, continue the public hearing at our next meeting, and vote on this amendment.
Yes, and I
Okay.
spoke to Michael about, just to explore the idea of whether or not the planning board would be interested in taking another look at that because of the change, but he said that the change is not significant enough to warrant a second look.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McGuire, do you have any comment for us? This wouldn't affect you at all. It would just, we'd need to keep open the public hearing for another session or two.
Yeah, it seems like a...
You want to
If
come
you
to the
could come to the
microphone?
microphone. That's okay.
I'm John McGuire, the person submitting the proposal, and it seems to be a fine idea, and we'll, as I understand it, we have to come back with another map with that cut out and proceed from there. I understand from what I just heard John say, there will not be another public hearing. It's a continuation.
We'll
of this.
continue this one.
We can address it.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I've made a motion. Would anyone like to second it?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we will hold this open, and Mr. Schuster, you're here. You'll come back to us at the next meeting with a revised map, and we'll have a revised plan for the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're done with our public hearings. We've held both of them over. I was going to have Victor Cornelius of Endeavor update us on the sewer grant for the waterfront. He called me, so he's running late, so his timing's perfect. We have time to hear Michael Tremble on rezoning of the mining overlay district.
If I could, I have a couple of maps which might help. Lock the doors and open it in. I hope you can see.
Can you tilt it a little bit this way if we're supposed to?
How's that?
Yep.
Okay. What this is a map of the Town of Rhinebeck water resources, so you have an idea of the area we're talking about. The mining overlay district is over here along White Schoolhouse Road. The pink here is all aquifer. This is a type 1 aquifer.
Michael,
And-
please stand on the other
Oh,
side
I'm
of
sorry.
the map.
Doesn't help much, does it? And all these other grayish things, these are all DEC wetlands in through there. The Landsman Kill runs through the top of this area as it then moves its way down through the town. And it's probably, if you look at the Hudsonia maps, it's one of our richest, most diverse habitat areas in the town. When the comp plan was put together, we were discussing, as you've all seen, I gave you all that 5-page little missive from myself about ways we wanted to preserve our natural resources, our water resources, habitats, things of that sort. We also wanted to permit some of the mining to continue here, which has been going on for a good long time. It had always been done at a very small scale, local people doing it. I think I can speak for most of us who live out there. I live on Slate Quarry Road, that for the most part, the people who've run it have done an excellent job. We've not had any issues. What's come to light in the last few years is a plan to actually turn this area into a very major soil mine area. And if you'll just bear with me. what you have here is the existing mine and what was the Kinlan property and is now the Red Wing property. This is where Jeff Decker has been working for a number of years. These areas are mostly mined out now. What still exists is a little bit up to the top here, and DEC has recently allowed them to put in a 9-acre lake right here. The proposal I'm asking you to take up, and hopefully you'll amend the zoning law and the map, is to only permit existing DEC permitted mines to continue to operate. Richie von der Lees will continue to operate. Within this area, this could operate, but that would be it. There would be no expansion allowed. What's being proposed for this area, and this particular proposal has been before DEC for 5 years. If you'll just remember the outline, these are all DEC wetlands all through here. This is where they found the Blandings turtles.
Excuse me, Michael, could you just point to the road, White Schoolhouse Road?
Right.
And Slate Quarry, is it off the map?
Yeah, it's out, it's
Okay.
down here, and then 308's up here. This is the current entrance to the mine through the Labatsky property.
Michael, we're talking both about the yellow, the green, and the purple?
As the existing mine area. This is from the mining company showing the different uses, where it's been mined, where they've been stockpiling, so things of that sort.
And it's about 35 acres?
37.5 acres.
Okay.
This is what they're permitted to do today. Taller than I am. This is what they want to do. They wish to expand the mine to 125 acres and put in an 84-acre lake, which, among other things, would devastate the habitat for the critters that live in there. It also exposes our water source out there, and those of us are somewhat sensitive to this because this is what we live off of, to pollutants from the air. Type 1 aquifers are sand and gravel. They already let materials go through them fairly quickly. But you strip everything off it for an extent like this, and as we know, the air pollution coming up from New York, particulate matters, the different things in there, are a problem. We always get a C or a D in terms of air quality here in Dutchess County. Open water is obviously more susceptible to pollution than anything underground that has some soil to try and go through and try and clean the materials out. Beyond that, what it would do to the habitats, what it would do to the water supply, what it would do to the neighbors here, I think, is something that I think we maybe have tended to overlook, because 40 years ago, there weren't a lot of neighbors here. This was primarily farming and a few very small mines. That's changed radically in the sort of 40-odd years I've lived here. This is very much a neighborhood now of residents, families, bicycle riders, hikers, things of that sort. If you drive White Schoolhouse, you also know how twisty and turny it is, and imagine trying to drive a large truck through there. To their credit, Jeff Decker, the von der Lees have been excellent neighbors and have not created problems for the neighbors living there. They've run things at a very low level and are to be commended for that. This sort of an operation basically changes the whole ball plan. This is a major mining operation, a major supply for local distribution throughout the Hudson Valley of the company that owns it now. And I think that, the Northeast. So frankly, if we're going to follow the comp plan, that one section I showed you in there, the intent was to map this only for existing DEC permitted mines, and they gave the rationale for that. We can get that map from DEC of exactly what they've permitted, and we can then fulfill what I think is the obligation of the comprehensive plan. I'd like the town board to take this up as something to correct the zoning map in the law. I think I can safely say if they don't, the neighbors will bring it to you as a petition.
I have two questions. We're looking at about a 95-acre expansion. About a
Actually,
90
the blue is 84 acres. That also would mine the other areas. The total mine they're asking for is 125 acres.
125 acres. Do you believe that, so are we talking about an error in the map or a disconnect from?
I think what basically happened, it had gone on for so long, and we were trying so hard to get it done, that I think when it was drawn, it just was looked.
Are there 3 little mines in this one area?
There are 3 properties that have been designated as the mining overlay district. What the comp plan said should be done is the mines within those properties should constitute the mining overlay district. But apparently, I guess they didn't have the maps from DEC at the time, or didn't ask DEC for the maps, so they just went in 250 feet in from the border of each property and drew that in, even though most of those areas have never been permitted as mining.
Are you saying that the DEC won't permit?
Oh, DEC will not permit any mining on land a town does not zone for mining. We can't control mining where it's allowed, but we can determine where it will go, or we can say outright, there will be no mining in the town of Rhinebeck.
So we can redraw a map to include only existing mines in their
Yes.
current boundaries?
Yes.
And redefine the mining overlay?
Yes, and restrict it to that so there'll be no expansion behind what currently exists.
And you believe that that would we would be carrying out our charge to preserve Rhinebeck's rural character, and that would help?
I certainly think so. I think that was the intent in the comp plan. I think, given the residential nature of this area, the condition of the road, where I live on Slate Quarry Road, there have been 4 or 5 fatalities since I've lived there. Accidents are on a regular basis. I mean, I asked the troopers, can you give me some flares, because we're out there before they are, and they give me emergency flares to put out.
Well, clearly,
So,
this is a drastic change in the topography.
it truly is, and it will destroy an absolutely magnificent area. As the people who live there can tell you, the wildlife in there, it's absolutely magnificent.
Do any of you have any questions or comments? Joe? Alan?
No, it seems like we've got a lot of people here.
Yeah, I've received a petition. I've been the recipient of a petition, and I think the petition is up to almost 380 signatures, so I want to thank the people who signed on and who let us know what was going on there. And I think I've received about 4 dozen email correspondences. I've tried to answer all of them that I received, and I think I also posted on the petition to let you know that we would, give this our full attention when it's before us. So thank you for making us aware and for coming tonight. Does anybody want to comment or have any questions? It's not a public hearing. I believe Michael's asking us to take this on. So should we make a motion that the town board accept the responsibility? You can help me if I'm not...
That sounds good.
Not
Doing great.
wording this correctly, to put forward a zoning amendment to redraw the mining overlay district on White Schoolhouse
Yes.
Road and Slate Quarry to include only existing mines within existing
DEC permitted mines.
DEC permitted mines. I'd like to make that motion. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us who live out there, on behalf of the turtles, on behalf of the community and our future.
So
It's
I'm
much
just gonna
appreciated.
State for everybody, I believe this will be our 3rd zoning amendment. We're getting well-versed at this. We will engage a planner, and I think we can find a good land use attorney to help us through this. We'll redraw a map. Michael, will this have to go through SEQR and environmental impact studies and everything? Do we have to go through all of the process, and we'll schedule public hearings?
I think one thing I'd mention about seeker, yes, you go through it, but since the comp plan was already vetted, it already went through seeker, and I believe it has this obligation in it, I don't believe that would be a major undertaking.
Okay, will it be a negative declaration?
I would
We'll
think
need
so.
advice from
Right.
We'll get
an
advice.
attorney on it.
John will be in touch.
We have excellent legal advice on
Yes.
land conservation issues.
Yes, we do.
Michael, I have a question. It seems like this is more of a correction than a change.
I think it is. As I was going through the comp plan looking for this, there were only 2 places where extractive operations mining was mentioned. One was early on as something that should be looked at and reviewed and probably amended the law. And the second was that section, I think it was page 15.16 in the comp plan, saying it should be restricted to existing mines, and then it gave a whole list of reasons why.
Could you please come to the, and introduce yourself? Thank you.
My name is James Deloleo. I'm a resident of Rhinebeck.
James, you need to address the board.
Oh, sorry.
You're speaking to the board.
Sorry.
That's okay.
James Deloleo. I'm a resident of Rhinebeck. Just a question, where does this water drain? Because you spoke about the local impact of it, but I'm curious about the downstream.
Eventually...
Is it into the Landsman Kill?
The Landsman Kill runs through here. Its
Okay.
headwaters are over here, runs through here, and then runs down, through the town, through the village, makes the Rhinebeck Hill, and meets the Hudson.
Okay, thank you.
John, did you want to?
I just wanted to say that confirm that you want me to just start on putting a
Yes.
proposed amendment together, and also to say we'll be able to skip some of the, since the board's bringing this initiative forward on its own, we'll be able to skip some of the procedural steps that you're used to going through with handling a petition. So we still will have to have a public hearing, go through the seeker process and so on, but and refer it to the planning board, but it'll be a little bit shorter than
Great.
in the past. So
How-
I'll put together an amendment for you to consider, and then we can take it from there.
We can have it ready for our next meeting on the 24th? We're short on meetings in April. We have one meeting in April.
Yeah, I can,
So we'll be in
Get that.
touch. You and
Yep.
we can speak, and thank
okay.
you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. Michael, thank you for bringing this before us. Everyone in the audience, thank you for coming. If you have any questions or would like to comment, we'd be happy to hear you now, or you could wait for our public hearing. Please come up.
My name is Doreen Hunt, and I live at 97 White...
Doreen
Hunt.
Hunt.
And I live at 97 White Schoolhouse Road, and my home is exactly .5 miles from 308. And I can reach the light in front of the cigar shop in under 4 minutes, and this mine is only 5 minutes away
From
the entrance that they're now using.
From the village, you're saying?
Yep.
Yes,
It's very close. And it's not like a 30-minute drive in the middle of nowhere.
no, it's right in the heart of the town.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Please come up.
This is a comment. I think I speak on behalf of...
I'm sorry, what is your name?
Oh, sorry. It's Louis Amaru. I live on White Schoolhouse Road. I think I speak on behalf of all the neighbors in this, and I really am rising to thank Michael for his very forceful, eloquent, and even elegant presentation. And we are all very grateful to him for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else, please?
I just wanted to comment. Steve Lubotsky. Just wanted to comment on this area of water that right now, currently, it is active farmland. So that's what would be taken away.
Good point.
Come on up.
Hi, my name's Carl Duncanberg. My family has owned property at the end of Bollenbecker Road, the adjacent to White Schoolhouse Road. We share a pretty sizable border with what is now the Red Wing property, formerly Kinlan. And although it doesn't affect our house directly in terms of noise, because we're lucky enough to be built towards one end of a very large property, I just wanted to make a point that wanted to reiterate something I brought to the planning board's attention last week. And it's really about the point of view that the board takes. I'm very happy that you will be taking this up in the first place, but that we've been there for over 30 years now. And when the mining overlay was first put in place and the mining operations first began, and I guess it was the mid to late 1980s, the point of view, at least at the time, of the town board and the planning board was that this was, at that moment at least, a one-time operation, a one-time permit, and that there would be real discussion about whether it continued each time the permit expired. So I just hope that we're so close to not having any extractive operations, as Michael said, in Rhinebeck, and so I'm hoping that maybe we can go that extra bit of distance, and as the town of Milan did, and not have that kind of operation here, especially in a residential area where there is incredible rural character. Our property is used by Lensman's Kill Trail Association, horseback riders, bird watchers, all kinds of botanists and people. It's a really beautiful area, so it's not just the residents that are affected by this, although we are greatly. Thank you.
Thank you,
Are you
Carl.
saying, though, that we should prohibit the existing mining operations?
That would be my preference, yes. It's not just, in fact, for the people that live here, and it's not just from the selfish perspective of the people that live here already, but I feel like the town of Rhinebeck should be considering how it appears, the fantastic reputation that it's gotten really across the country over the last 15 or 20 years, and the type of people that are coming here and looking for a rural escape, if not a full-time place to live and raise children. It just, this type of operation in the middle of a real rural residential area, I think sort of presents the wrong type of message about what type of town this is, just from a point of view of advertising, if nothing else, to the type of residents that we'll have here in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we'll move on. This will be on our next agenda, which is March, I think, 24th, and we'll move ahead with it. Michael, thank you for bringing this to us. Yes, of course. Thank you, everybody. Victor Cornelius is running late, so let's get on to some resolution.
He's here.
He's here.
Oh, Victor, hi.
All right, then.
He doesn't have his suit on. So
Yeah, he's wearing a red sweater. I didn't recognize you. Come on up. Everybody, if you wouldn't mind, we're continuing with our meeting, so if you could go out in the hallway, that'd be great. Victor is here to update the town and the public on our potential grant for sewage and stormwater drainage in Rhinebeck.
Exactly. I had promised you all a submission by the end of 2013 for the HUD disaster recovery funds. There's been a series of interesting political conundrums. The HUD process has been slowed down because we had the FEMA grants, which were a $750 million pot, were to be submitted by the end of November, and this was before we had come to a conclusion on the issue for Rhinecliff. And the website was down. The final submission deadline for FEMA actually got pushed back into early January. HUD DR is not opening up until FEMA makes its decisions on their $750 million. The HUD DR is $1.23 billion for Hudson Valley projects north of Westchester County. And the interesting piece in the last few weeks is that because of the mayor of Hoboken's criticism of the way Governor Christie has been managing his Superstorm Sandy money, the governor's office has slowed down its perusal of theirs, which is a good, I think probably a good thing to do in an election year, although nobody's really discussing that. That's sort of the undertone. The HUD DR has actually been released. The structure for it has been released for public commentary. It's online. There's an open public online hearing for it right now. And then in about 2 weeks, the request for proposals for the letter of intent will open up. That's what I was told by congressional offices this afternoon.
So at the end of the month.
Yeah, and we'll have 30 days in which to put together our initial letter of intent. Again, I need to put together a project description, and we need to come up with one budget figure. I don't need a broken out budget at this point. I was in Washington last week, and I met with Congressman Gibson's people, and I'm working with Reese Harris here on this, and locally, and we've been offered full support from Gibson, Gillibrand, and Schumer.
Fantastic. And we have an engineer for you to partner with.
Absolutely. I'll give her a call tomorrow morning and have a
So basically, it's the same, just a little later.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And you think the letter of intent will be issued by the end of this month?
The RFP will open for it in the next 2 weeks.
We'll have 30 days.
We'll have 30 days.
RFP when?
Requests for proposals will be out by the end of March.
So we're looking for our
April 30th submission.
The end of April, beginning of 1st of May.
Right, and it'll be an online submission.
Fantastic. Great. Does anybody have any questions? I just know that some residents from Rhinecliff have been in touch with me continuously. They're not here, and we're going to have a presentation from them at our next meeting. They've been doing research and would, have some ideas about
How to proceed.
Yes, so we'll listen to them.
Well, we had discussed it ideally being a sort of joint stormwater, wastewater management system.
Yep.
That would actually carry the stormwater away from any of the
So
septics.
we'll look forward to getting an update from you at the end of the March when the RFPs are out.
You will have a phone call from me the moment it opens up.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. Does anybody have any questions for Victor or comments?
I don't have any question. I think we need to make sure the village is involved in this because their sewage system is pretty much maxed out.
Right.
And so we got to make sure they're involved as well.
Have you presented to them?
The village?
Yes.
No, actually, I haven't. And if you'd like me to, I will.
Well, their sewage treatment plant is right by the Hudson River, and I think that they're, projecting a couple of,
That's their water plant down there. They're on
Wells Manor, right? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
getting them mixed up. The water plant. With rising tides, they could be in danger.
I did speak with Jim Reardon about four or 5 months ago about
I think the village would need to
doing
retain
something.
him
They
for a
would have to be
separate-
their own applicant.
Yeah, they have to retain him for their separate grant. This is for our specific grant for Rhinecliff, and I did mention it to the mayor when we were doing it.
Unless you want to do something jointly with them.
Well, I think we need to concentrate on Rhinecliff and not, personally, I'll just speak for myself, you guys can chime in, the village water treatment system is not in our budget or purview.
Right.
So I would hope that they would look to get a grant of their own, and I can certainly talk to Heath again.
Yeah, I would suggest you give Heath a call.
Would you
Okay,
call-
I'll call
Heath
him.
is the interim mayor.
I know,
and,
okay.
Or Heinz Sowers, who oversees the
Right.
water treatment.
I've had a lot of discussion
And
with
I'll
Heinz.
mention it to Heinz.
Yep.
Thanks so much for coming.
Sure, anytime.
It. Okay, is there any other liaison or reports for any, do any of you have any reports?
We
Okay.
haven't had time.
You've been working.
Yeah,
Wait till you
we've-
see this piece of data, this
We've been
gorgeous.
working.
You have been. You guys have been logging major time. So let's go on to our resolutions and finish up here. Resolution 2014-091, approving our preliminary accounts payable abstracts 3, V263 through V210, 44 checks totaling $663,877.10. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Resolution 2014-092, approving preliminary capital projects abstracts, 2 checks totaling $80,394.16. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Thank you. Resolution 2014-093, approving budget transfers and amendments. May I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Resolution 2014-094, authorizing the purchase of website software package and a contract for hosting and other services for the Recreation Department Administration, myrec.com. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I would just
Bruce,
like,
do we have money in in your budget for this, for rec?
We're moving some of it around, and we're going to take 2,500 out of contingency.
so yes, it's broken down on the resolution where we'd get the funding. And for the public, I'd just like to remind you that we had a presentation last week from our rec director, Chris Carey, and this will go a long way towards not having our rec department, operate out of milk cartons with thousands of sheets of paper. Everything will be automated online. We'll be able to track different different users, fee schedules, programs. So thank you for looking into this. Any further discussion?
Are we going to point at this from the town website?
Yes.
Is that included in this, or?
I don't know if that's included in
I mean,
this.
it's
We
no
were all
big deal.
supposed to do our,
We'll figure that out.
can certainly
You know,
do
That's
a-
from our end, right?
yeah. I guess let's put it on our list, Alan.
The only comment I have about this is, I don't think this is equipment. I think this is a 400 expense, not a 200 expense. It's not capital.
On the contingency?
The equipment, the bottom line.
Oh, I'm
was
sorry, the bottom line, equipment.
It's software. It's a contractual expense. We renew it every year.
Well, not all of it's renewable, is it?
Yeah.
Not all.
No, there was a one-time fee.
The setup stuff, but the software license and everything is renewable annually. So it's not, it's a net, but
It's a 2,800 renewable fee.
Right,
yearly.
and that's contractual, and the rest of it, they're doing work to get it set up and to get it registered and so on. So it's really services,
So
and there are services that are either one-time or renewable every year. So it's a 400, it's not a 200, that's all I'm saying.
Then this resolution isn't correct.
Well, I didn't add this, your bookkeeper did,
Our bookkeeper.
your bookkeeper.
Would you like to?
I'd like to modify it to make that a 400.
Okay, is this a line that we've created? Obviously it is. So I'll talk to Shelley tomorrow and get her to put this into a 400 contractual services line.
Okay. I knew I shouldn't open my mouth,
No, this is good.
but can we still approve it the way it is?
Yes, we can, I'll make a modification to this to move 00067020-200 to a 400 contractual services line, not an equipment line.
That's just my opinion, so.
Well, I'll meet with Shelley, and I think it's valid, so thank you for
Okay.
pointing it out. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Thank you. Well, there will be milk crates for sale shortly.
Let's not get rid of them too quickly. Resolution 20140995, change the name of committee dealing with historic preservation, expansion of mission, and appointment of new committee members. May I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
For the public, in our last meeting, we created, or we appointed a bunch of new members, or reappointed members to our Historic Structures Committee, but upon pulling out all of our old resolutions, we found out that that was something started in 1991 and was really no longer vibrant and wasn't doing the mission of what we wanted this to do. So we're changing the name to Historic Preservation. They're going to be charged with, let me just get it here. The Historic Structures Committee, now renamed the Historic Preservation Committee, is going to be tasked with recommending whether the town needs a law to protect historic sites, and if so, to study various models and propose such a law. And we are also appointing two members, one we inadvertently left out, David Miller, and Kathy Hammer is a new applicant. So, Melanie, you're the chair of this. Do you have any questions for us? Does it sound a little tighter now? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I have a question for Melanie.
So moved.
Melanie, you're going to call a meeting and notify, you have the list of all the members and their emails, so that's the next step.
John has given me the application, so I have everybody's emails. I was just holding off until you made this change tonight before I contacted anybody.
And so you know, the resolution creating this has no express membership, so if you want to add people, you're certainly welcome if you're finding you're lacking expertise. I know originally it called for someone with some archaeological background. We don't have that person. We can add another committee member. All right?
Right, but she would come back to the board, or we'd get an application.
Yes, we appoint people to the committee.
Okay, I thought you were
Yes.
bypassing
Thank you.
that.
Thank you for doing this, and we'll look forward to hearing what you have to say. Any other questions? No? Resolution 2014-096, appointing our town planner, Art Broad. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or any discussion? This is a letter of intent that you're authorizing me to sign. I'll point out for the public that Mr. Broad is not raising his rates to the town again, so thank you. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Our last resolution here is 2014-097, changes to town employees for medical coverage. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? For the public, last year, we enacted a resolution to charge our town employees with some medical expenses. And Joe, would you like to take it from there, or do you want me to finish it?
Well, the initial resolution talked about 25% in two different slugs. The first slug would be 12.5%. That was implemented. And then we have deferred the second 12.5% on various resolutions over the period since the initial adoption. We think, at least I think, that it should continue to defer it until further action by the board without setting a date.
So this is for our non-union town employees who receive medical benefits, and there's a 12.5% copay that they pay towards their policy, and we're deciding to leave this in place indefinitely and not charge or look for additional participation.
Right, until there's further action by the
Any
board.
further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, thank you very much. All right, that's it for our resolutions. We have a couple of discussion items. Tab number 8 is the Department of State Gateway registration. I think we talked about this briefly at our last meeting, and this is a sort of consolidation of state business practices to gatekeep all grants written.
Right, I further looked in it, and I've actually played with the website with the help of my assistant. And it's interesting, and I think we all should look at it periodically, because they have a listing of all state grants that are available. And it's useful. You know, we do need grants here to do projects. We have an ongoing need for heating in this building, and if we could see a grant available for heating, and it would be a godsend to us. So I hope that we all on the board, at least I was told how to make this a favorite in my computer.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
And, if all of us could do it, and we all can look at it every month or so to see what's added to it.
We have a couple of things that we've identified on our task list or our wish list of things we want to do for the year that certainly need grants. So I've looked at it, and I think that's a great idea.
So I have the information for any of the board members who don't have it. I think we all got it about 2 months ago, maybe, and it's supposed to go into effect the end of this month. But if we go to browse on it, there's a listing of the available grants.
Thank you.
Joe, just as an aside on this, because this is a public gathering place, because it has a generator, because it's a fallout shelter and all that kind of stuff, this may qualify for major repairs through the Homeland Security type stuff, because it's a
You're talking about possible grant for the town hall.
Yeah.
for the furnace.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about the steam, and or I guess Alan might.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is an area where I think I can be helpful as far as state grants, too. We have a person in our office who deals directly with grant making. Don't hold out your hands too long.
Get a bucket, a wheelbarrow.
So I'd be happy to funnel up to look at the goals and see what we can match and take a look at this
That would be
site. And work with,
fantastic.
and work with our office to try and secure the grants that we need.
Fantastic.
That may
thank
be,
you.
if we can generate grants, certainly Bruce can fill you in as to what we are facing here. I won't go into it, but if we can encourage the state to offer a grant in that area would be great.
You talking specifically about the heat again? The furnace?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the heat and all the things.
Well, I can
that
reach
are
out to the
involved.
federal offices too, and maybe work with them to see what's available as well. Like Bruce suggested with FEMA, there might be something available. So, yeah, I'd be happy to. Pardon me?
Homeland
Or
Security.
Homeland Security. I'll be happy to do that.
Great.
Fantastic. Joe, thanks for following up on this. Now, the discussion, the village fire contract. Bruce, once again.
Well, Joe's got a lot.
Yeah, well, you're, I'm just looking for this.
Well, I was about to turn it over to you. Bruce has gathered a lot of information, and he's going to present it. We have this little chart. We've had a couple of discussions with the village representatives, and at least it doesn't seem conceptually that we agree at all as to how you should calculate what the fire department, and I'm talking about the village fire department, budget is for purposes of charging us for the protective district. So there seems to be a lot of points of issue. And let's come back to that after Bruce presents some statistics that he's been working on.
Okay. How this started was the village proposed that based on the percentage of incidents that the town was not paying their fair share, and then some village officials said that they were protecting the village taxpayers who had been unfairly taxed for fire protection all those years. I'm the only village resident on the board, I believe. And so I thought it rather odd that I was digging into this. But I looked at it, and on the initial look at it, it seemed like the protective district in the town was being charged for calls that weren't part of the district. And so the auditing authority that we have as a town board, and this is being shifted to a services rendered rather than a protection coverage kind of thing, an insurance kind of thing.
An actual parcels or population served.
Right. They were changing it to how much money was spent supposedly. So that's how I kind of got into it. All through the conversations, it was Heath Tortorella, Heinz Sauer, Henry Campbell, Joe Gelb, and myself. It was very, very clear that the fire department, like all the other fire departments, is extremely dedicated, works really hard. The volunteers, it's all volunteers. They use their own cars, their own gas, and they take personal risk every time they go out on the road to help people with that. They need equipment that's reliable, and that equipment and the supplies that go with it are very, very expensive, and they get more expensive every year. But that said, when the village basically said that the village taxpayers were being unfairly taxed, I went and looked, and for 10 years, it seemed like the protective district had been paying the majority of the expenses.
Can we just, I'm sorry to interrupt, but for the public, can you roughly talk about what the fire protection district
Okay.
is versus the village fire department? Just so that
There's 3 fire departments in the town of Rhinebeck. Rhinecliff, which has a tax area, and they tax people directly, those houses that are in that, they tax those directly. Hillside, the same thing, and the Village Fire Department, the same thing. So anything in the village, people pay taxes as part of the general fund, their taxes for that. Everything outside of those jurisdictions doesn't have coverage unless the town provides a protective district, which is just an administrative thing where we contract with different fire departments to provide those services. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the area we're talking about is basically east and north of the village, sort of up to the Red Hook, Milan border and over to Clinton.
Right.
308 and over to the fork in the road and over to Ziffelberg and...
And the medians between the different fire
Yes.
companies.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
so it was kind of hard to understand. I went back to the state data from 1999 up to 2013, and it was definitely, if you look at it operationally, the town protective district had paid 75% of the operations. If you consider the capital expenses, it paid over 50%. And so you got to remember that a fire department needs a certain amount of equipment, a certain amount of overhead, a certain amount of fuel, buildings, everything else, just to operate. So, to me, it seemed like the protective district was running up costs a little bit with the village, but the village was benefiting from the amount of income that was coming in.
Are you saying that the village fire department, in effect, has to maintain the infrastructure for their own fire department?
Yes.
And they're getting revenue from the fire protection district? They need the building, they need the heat.
Right,
They need
right.
the trucks and...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so the issue was really, how much more does it cost the village to protect their portion of the protection district? So I went and looked, and I finally figured out from, and it's a representation of, I looked at all of the vehicles that were dispatched, whether they were en route, whether they were on scene, whether they came back into service, that type of thing. And we had some discussions about that.
Did everybody agree on how you classified the data?
No. Henry believed that every incident is a valid incident, and I'm not arguing that. I'm just looking at if a truck rolled, if an ATV rolled, or something rolled, then money was spent. If it didn't roll, then I don't think money was spent.
So is that the difference between incident and on scene?
Yes, yeah. But I also included en route because a vehicle could go out and the call could be called off or something, or they could have gotten out too late. But they're still spending money once they roll out.
But that's a disagreement we have that we haven't
But
resolved.
it sounds like Bruce is going with their definition, and anything that rolled out, you're counting as a call.
Well, yeah, but there's a sensitivity to this because the number of calls that a fire company has is a matter of pride. And so if you interpret this the wrong way, then you're saying that there were less calls than they were credited for. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if a truck rolled, we spent money. If a truck didn't roll, I don't see how we spent money. I can't find that. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not challenging the number of incidents or anything else.
This is from a data perspective.
Right. So when I did that, the other thing that was major up front, I think I told you, was anything outside of the village was counted as the town. So that's why the percentages were so different.
Do you mean even...
Long Island?
My big point was the Superstorm Sandy was counted
Right.
as a fire protection call.
Right. Mutual aid to any place
Island,
was counted against the protection district. And so we went and looked, and when you turn it around a little bit, what you find out is about 41% of the incidents are actually in the protected district. So that means 58%, 59% are outside of the protected district. Could be in the village, could be mutual aid. They did agree that mutual aid is a fire company responsibility or obligation. So that helped us a great deal, clearing up that point.
The 4158 is
Yeah.
sort of agreed on.
Right.
Well, I guess what I was going to say is their position, as I understand it, is mutual aid benefits the town as well as the village. So
That was 2 meetings ago.
So I
The
think
last
they-
meeting, they'd agreed on mutual aid is,
When I met with the mayor, when I met with Heath, he had acknowledged to me that they agreed on that point today. They sort of came around to, they agree mutual aid is on them.
So even mutual aid into the Hillside Fire District, you think that they've agreed with us?
Let's ask them when we invite them to our next
Okay.
meeting. But that's the assumption that we're drawing
right.
here.
Well, I'm trying to explain the analysis that
Thank
was
you.
done. And so based on that, fundamentally, the protective district for the last 4 years, I cut it down, I didn't go all the way back to the 1999 stuff, even though I have that. The last 4 years that they're interested in, the protective district has provided 74% of the funding and racked up 32% of the expense. So it's even though it's a win-win, the protective district gets protected and the village gets to defray some of their costs. The basis of charging us for services provided is flawed, in my mind. You can't do what they're asking to do, or they originally asked to do. So then I went on, Heath went on to Joe and I went to 9/11. I'm sorry for rambling. We went down to the county. We learned out all about this stuff. We were there for a couple hours. They told us what databases to use. Heath got access to the databases, got us 96 files, spreadsheets basically, one for each month, one for incidents, one for units of the trucks and everything. And then I sat there and I took 60,000 unit records and 13,000 incident records, or 1,300 incident records, 3,000 something or other, slammed them all together, put them in databases, ran pivot tables and cross-references and things like that, and boil it down to these funny little charts, which everybody thinks is too much, but...
That's what you do. You're good with the data.
And so, other than the basis being wrong, also the other issue is the village is a political subdivision of the state, just like we are. And if we're subject to the tax cap, I believe that they should be cognizant and consider that in future contracts. And I think we have to make sure that we're holding that up as one of the criteria that we're going to do contracts.
Let's just be clear that we would be going over our tax cap if we fund this more than what we've allowed in our budget.
Right. They had asked for 26% increase, and we gave them like 5% or some 4%.
We still capped within our 1.66%
And to stay within our
tax cap.
cap.
We're not going over the tax cap for 2014. That's done.
If we had given them what we wanted to, we would have gone over our tax cap, I think,
Yes.
by about 5%. Is that about right? We would have blown our tax cap by 4 or 5%. Now, it's only becoming more important now, just to digress a little bit, because of the mandates coming down from the state and the governor and sticking with our tax cap to get property tax relief for our residents. So it's making us even more accountable. You know, I look at this as a state mandate, an unfunded mandate. You know, the governor's new bent on what we have to do to get tax relief for our residents is to stay within our tax cap.
Well, that hasn't been voted on yet, though. There are a lot of people that are against it.
Right,
A
but
lot of opposition to
it's
it.
on the table. Hopefully
Right.
it won't, but it's a hard sell.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We're looking forward.
Right.
But we're also in a different position. We've been trimming expenses for several years, where I don't think they've really gotten there yet. They haven't gotten to the degree of interest or activity that we've had. They apparently do have a lot more pressure than we do.
Pressure, what do you mean?
Containing expenses, covering their expenses.
They being the village.
The village, yeah. They have a lot more debt. And a lot of this overall is like $500,000 in debt service that village residents pay for every year. So, and then we don't have anywhere near that. But that's an aside. The other thing that was Interesting was, many years ago, there was a $9,000 per year agreement signed between, or made between the town and the village. None of us knew exactly what that was. The bookkeepers had it on a piece of paper someplace. Joe's done some research with it. I think it expires in a couple years. I personally felt that this laying $40,000 of capital on us, which is what the request was completely reneging on that $9,000 deal. And then as time went on, I realized they didn't know about the $9,000 deal. So that was kind of scary.
But we still have it in writing, there's a deal.
No, it's not. It's something that there's no explicit written agreement. What there are we've been paying it. It's a separate item in the fire department contracts, and we have a note on a schedule that is supposed to last, I think, 9 years, and I think it would be up at the end of 2014.
So we have a payment precedent that seems to
I think we have enough to argue that there was an agreement.
Right, and I did see it in
That's the $9,000 for the truck,
set of minutes.
not the $7,500 for the ambulance. That's a separate deal.
The other thing with the ambulance, that was another thing that everybody didn't really understand very well. This is scary stuff. But the ambulance was purchased in 2012. So while we've been continuing to give them money because we didn't understand completely, we need to stop that, and we need to get credit for that amount.
You're saying that it was paid for. It was done being purchased in 2012.
Right.
So we've made 2 payments, or we have made 1 payment and we're scheduled to make another, which will mean that we've overpaid by $15,000.
Right.
Or paid for a piece of equipment,
Well, you got to look at the
that's already
timing, but
purchased.
the $7,500 this year is definitely over, based on my understanding of it. So we can either take that as a credit, or we can, in the future, which I think we have to ask for, we can just not pay that.
Okay.
But that's up to the board, not up to me, I'm just telling you. And I guess the final point with this was, and Joe and I are pretty much in agreement with this, if there's going to be a big capital purchase for the fire department in the future, we, the town board, need to be involved so that we can represent the fire district, the protection district. The people in the protection district live in the town. They cannot vote for the village elected positions. They have no say in what's going on, and so we have to be involved in that, and we have to negotiate that. There's copies of it here if somebody else wants a copy of this stuff.
Bruce, is there a recommendation? Do we have a number, or is it premature? Do we need to, first of all, thank you. This is
Elizabeth, let me give you my
Okay, let me just-
perspective before you
Yeah, well,
ask.
I just want to say thank you. I think, with your permission, we should probably publish this on our website.
I'll send it out. I'll send it out to them.
Board meeting. Why don't we just put it in the minutes of the board meeting?
I think we should have it on our website. We'll email it to the village. I'll call the mayor tomorrow, and we should get them at our next meeting. But Joe, go ahead, let's.
Yeah, let me give you more of what the village's perspective is, and where I think we ought to go with this. The village would say the 74% if you paid administrative, that we've paid toward running the fire department is really not a valid number, because it doesn't take into account their capital cost and their administrative costs, and they think we should pay a share of it. At least and they may have given up on mutual aid, but at least I thought their position was mutual aid benefits, and most of the mutual aid calls are them going to Hillside Fire District.
Not true.
Hillside, okay, we can.
Yeah, well, I'll bring that information.
Okay.
Where's most of the mutual aid?
Pardon me?
Where is most of the mutual aid?
It's all over the place, but
Out of the town?
yeah, and
You think it's out of Rhinebeck?
No. It's within Rhinebeck, but it's not necessarily to where you said. So,
Okay, but you think it's mostly in Rhinebeck?
yeah, and it's fundamentally the ambulance.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's very important to remember, is that Hillside contracts or agrees with the village to provide, the village provides ambulance service from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. Northern Dutchess Paramedics provides it during the day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. To Hillside, because Hillside doesn't have an ambulance. Rhinecliff and Rhinebeck have ambulances. So that's not actually our problem. That's firehouse to firehouse. So, but when they count it, as they were counting, when they sent the ambulance to Hillside.
They already have contract in place.
Right, and they were counting that as
double dipping.
As a town, but yeah, that's what it was.
It's surprising in the data how many calls are for the ambulance. I don't know what percentage, but it looked roughly half the calls involved the ambulance as opposed to the fire trucks.
66.3%.
Is what, ambulance?
Yeah. Page 4. At the top.
Sitting in on these meetings and hearing the village, I'm not sure we're ever going to reach an agreement with them on a conceptual amount. Ideally, we would like the increased marginal costs that the town causes them to expend. I think they're looking upon us more as a quote-unquote partner in running the fire department. So at least where I'm coming from, it's going to be hard, if not impossible, to come up with an exact methodology. And I think we got to think about flat dollar amounts. And
with increases that are tied to maybe our tax cap.
Conceivably. I think the village is also concerned because they're doing a budget now for 2014 and 15, and their year runs from May 1st to April 30th. So they really want to know how much we are going to pay in our calendar year for 2015.
Have you had any discussions with them about an amount? I know that there was an amount that Heath talked to me about, which is considerably over what we have budgeted. Has this been broached with them with this data?
With some of this, they have. I just finished this tonight, so.
Okay.
I don't type very well.
They have put a number on the table for this year.
Right.
Can we say that? It's 160 or?
Yeah, it's 160, where they've come down from, 187. We're paying at the rate of about 187 now. They initially put 169 on the table, and then
what did we have in our budget?
and then they came down to 160.
We're 140. What did we have
I
in
think
our budget?
about 147.
144, 145?
No, I think it was 147.
Remember, you just got to remember that we're only talking about part of the town. We're talking about 1,500 houses or
Yes.
properties. So.
Has this situation occurred with other towns/village?
It seems to be.
What have they done?
Yeah, they hash it out. They negotiate.
So there's no formula that anybody ever came
This,
up with?
apparently, from what I've learned through emergency services and talking to people who are knowledgeable, it's the biggest single issue facing fire protection districts and fire departments supplying that is how do you contract? So you do you sort the data.
Yeah, there's really no models or advice.
We have,
standard forms of doing it.
we budgeted 147,000 and they wanted 180, 189.
Yeah, it was 188, 189. And we went up considerably.
We went up 5 or 6%.
Now, we are paying on that higher rate now,
Well,
monthly.
but we've agreed that it will come back if we have a new agreement.
Yes, if we reach an agreement with them.
Can you see the budget, or?
I don't see it in here, right? The other issue is,
The other issue is,
never mind. Michael, what do you think about all this? Taking it back for it?
I mean, theoretically, we could go to another fire district to get that coverage.
yeah, we wouldn't want to do that because the village residents are also our town residents. We could theoretically do that. It would be a disaster for the village. They need this revenue. It's a partnership, we're sort of serving the same public. It would be a disaster for them to lose this chunk of revenue. I think it would undermine the
It would hurt
fire
them, and it
department.
probably would hurt us.
It's in everybody's best interest to negotiate this in good faith and come to an agreement that we can all live with.
Okay.
Which is how we've always proceeded.
Except, well,
But you're right.
I mean, one of the fire people in one of the hearings threatened to cut off everything if we didn't pay, so.
That was the
That
mayor.
was the mayor, the
Oh.
former mayor.
The former mayor, I think.
Well, with sauce for the goose, et cetera.
Well, we'll take the higher road here.
Right now,
For now.
we have a meeting this week with them, and they are expecting us to put a proposal to them. They've come back to us with the number 160 for this year.
I think we should review this for them, and I think we should stick with what we have budgeted, stick to our tax cap. Alan?
I agree.
Now, to make it more attractive, should we offer for the next year something? So it may advance it if we came in with a 2-year proposal rather than a 1-year proposal.
What are we allowed to go up on with the budget caps, 2%, 2.5%?
Well, we don't know what it will actually be. It's not going to be more than 2%. This year was a little bit less than
1.66 this year.
this year. So, proposal could be, it's whatever the state allows us to raise taxes for.
Sounds good to me.
Elaine, do you have any thoughts or
No, I don't really.
does it sound?
It's a complicated situation.
It's a very
I mean,
complicated situation.
It would be ideal if, there could be some agreement between the town and village
Yes,
on
I think we have to work in good faith. I think
Yeah.
we need each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I want to thank Henry Campbell for helping out with this. Was a lot of, as always, volunteers a lot of his time.
Elizabeth, let me-
Joe, thank you. And I just want to clarify our next steps. John, we're going to put this on our website tomorrow. Bruce, is that okay for you? We'll maybe retitle it as the town board study, or, however you want to do it. Can you email it out, and I'll make sure that the village gets it? Or do you
Yeah,
want
well, I
to
should
email?
send it to Heath and
And you'll copy all of us?
Heinz,
There's
yeah.
a little more elaboration in the text because it's a little hard to follow.
Yeah, okay, but
It's a tremendous amount of work. I mean,
It's a huge amount of work. No, I don't want any more data, I just like a little more explanation.
Okay, you want to know what a PIAA is?
Exactly.
Personal injury automobile accident? That isn't obvious to you?
now it is, now that you say it. So our next step, we're going to get the data out, we'll get it out to the public. Let's release it and then, work on the elaboration. We can release a second edition if we like. And we should reach out to them and get them to come to our next meeting, or do we want a special meeting? How do you guys want to handle
Yeah,
this?
I think we're going to meet with them this week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I
It
thought we
was
said.
based on the outcome of this.
And the outcome is basically, and your recommendation is that you feel we're paying a fair amount and we should
That's
stick
what I
with it.
feel.
Well, right, but we should relay that, and I would suggest that we say to them, look, we'll have a special meeting, because I think time is moving on, and I don't think we can wait 2 weeks, we ought to have a meeting with them if they want, a special meeting, and
2 boards, 2 full
the 2
boards.
boards.
That's fine.
We'll notice the public whenever you come to a date.
Yeah.
And we'll make ourselves available. Thank you.
Now I need my bio break. Keep going.
I think we're almost done. I think we can go into executive session.
Not so fast, Bruce.
Well, before we do that, Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah, I knew you had one more thing. You wanted to set the meeting for the lead,
Right. And
our lead, our green building code meeting.
Right, and I have 2 possibilities.
Just take the paper off the microphone.
I have 2 possibilities. The initial plan didn't work. I'm going to need Michael for this on dates.
Michael, this is for a meeting with,
I know that Bob was preferred, right, up on the microphone.
you're okay, we'll let's see, on Mondays and Fridays during business hours. so we'll-
Right.
we'll
No, I've
fill you
spoken
in.
to his secretary. We're beyond that, and we have some dates.
Yes, Friday might be best, because both the town and the planning board usually are busy on one, alternating Mondays.
But I can certainly do a daytime meeting, and let's give him several options since he, is coming in
So,
to do this. And
The possibilities, I've been talking to his secretary, is March 31, it's a Monday, it's the afternoon. Conceivably, we could do it in the morning. And April 11, Friday, the afternoon. Now, my calendar says, Elizabeth, you may be away then.
No, I'll be here, I'm leaving on Saturday.
Okay, so what about these 2 possibilities?
It's the afternoon of the 11th, or you have a facility use in here, I'm assuming that's for this meeting.
Yes, and I've checked it with John.
Yeah, that's fine, either one's fine for me.
So for the rest of the board, March,
Oh,
31st to 5th Monday.
Bob Fox?
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
You could work at night, you could try the night meeting if you wanted to, it's much easier to get more people to attend. You could work during the day, for the 31st.
It is a 5th Monday.
my only reaction is maybe we'll be, we may be more alert during the day, and
We can certainly take the expertise that we get from this meeting and, fill the public in, and if we can have Panda here for it, that would be good, or a videographer for Panda, that would be
No, we're not
good.
going to have.
pardon me?
You told me the 21st at 10 o'clock.
That's off.
That's off.
That's off.
Okay, Joe, either one of those is fine.
Is that okay with the rest of the board and you, Michael? Monday, the 31st, the afternoon, or the 11th of April, the afternoon?
I don't know if I can make it during the day.
Well,
So, don't worry about me. I already have very strong opinions about this subject.
you'd like to see it happen.
Well, we'd like to hear what they are. I don't mean now, but
Hear 'em.
at the appropriate time.
We'll
But,
have to wait.
Is that a threat or a promise?
Yeah, hopefully you can juggle your schedule so you can be there. I think you'd be very valuable on this, because I think you're the board member who's physically constructed buildings.
Oh, so have I.
You physically constructed, okay, good.
Great, we'll look to hear from you. Anything else anybody would like to bring up before I ask for a motion to go into executive session? Michael, thank you for everything. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for, hold on, I've got a list here, matters pertaining to compensation for a particular employee, billings of a particular employee, union contract negotiation.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Thank you. We will not be coming back with